welcome to Fort Mill Business Today. I'm Patti Mercer. With me today is Shaw Kuester. He is the new chairman of the Fort Mill Economic Council to talk about the growth and changes here in Fort Mill. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. And you are, congratulations, the new chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was bestowed upon me by my friends and colleagues in the council, and I was fortunate enough to have time available to jump in and do it.
Fantastic. And outside of serving on this council, what do you do?
I am one of the owners and family members of our family company called the Kuester Companies. We handle commercial real estate in the area in both North and South Carolina. Have a number of offices around, and what I specifically do is Kuester Commercial Real Estate, which is commercial brokerage, commercial management, development, and those services around.
You cannot drive through Fort Mill, York County without seeing Kuester. And where we are in growth as it relates to Fort Mill, your experience must serve you very well in this role of being chairman.
It helps that I've grown up in the business, that we're from Charlotte originally. We've been there since the 1800s, in fact. So we've had a lot of connections here to the area and to other areas, and so that's helped a lot from that standpoint. And we've also seen a lot since the company's been in Fort Mill for about 18 years.
Fantastic. In fact, we're sitting outside of one of your properties right now.
Yes.
As we called it, the Sky Rise in Fort Mill, the greens, of course, at Fort Mill Apartments.
Yes.
93% occupancy.
At least it waxes and wanes between kind of 90 and 100%. So yeah, we're happy about it, and it turned out great, and everything's been nice since then.
Yeah, that's great, because there has been a lot of growth for a long time. Now, going back before the Fort Mill Economic Council, there was Move Fort Mill Forward.
Yes.
The role that you play has changed and adjusted according to the growth and development here in Fort Mill. Tell me a little bit about how it's changed.
I can speak from just our history being here over the past 18 years, and I can even go before that. And when we moved the company down here, when my father actually said, we're going to move the company from Charlotte to Fort Mill, being from Charlotte, I have to admit, I actually said, Dad, where's Fort Mill?
Yes.
And I look back and I want to eat those words, because we've made a great living here, we've enjoyed it, we've tried to give back where we can. And that comes also from our background too, of just being in Charlotte, being part of the chamber from what we do there. The fact that we're here now, that we can not just develop and manage and lease and broker, but we can actually develop key pieces of the puzzle that need to happen in Fort Mill itself, in the town of Fort Mill. And that's what's been exciting from my standpoint. From the Economic Council standpoint, what is great is that you have a group of individuals that have come together that have a passion for trying to make this what it used to be and what it needs to be going forward. And that's what's been exciting, to be a part of the group that I'm with, of about 10 individuals that make up that Economic Council.
10 individuals that have a passion for Fort Mill to blend new with the history, a lot of history buffs in that group and around town. It's just been exciting to see the way that the development is happening within the city limits of Fort Mill.
Yes.
There's also a lot of great conversations and discussions that begin with the individual developers. So I would imagine that the Fort Mill Economic Council plays a big part in what is going to come to our area, maybe what the needs of our area in Fort Mill look like, and see if there's some negotiation opportunities there.
There is, and that's a lot of times it may not necessarily be the entire council is meeting with one person. It may be a few individuals within the council politely nudging along, maybe talking to town manager, to City Hall, and slowly creating that chemistry that needs to happen, because development usually is an art form, not necessarily mathematics and everything else. It tends to take a couple of pieces of that puzzle to come together, and so that's where the council really has helped out. And again, we have a lot of fun doing it. We enjoy doing it. We don't necessarily like to go out there too much and do a whole lot of things out in the marketplace aside from what we know that focus needs to be on, and that is a lot of times Fort Mill and really downtown Fort Mill at this point. Things will change in the future, but right now, where we are trying to focus our attention on is downtown Fort Mill, where it's needed most.
Fantastic. And you know, we look at Fort Mill, as you said, years ago, people weren't familiar, they didn't know Fort Mill. As Charlotte has grown, we have an international airport. I guess that's the measuring part of business being attracted to an area. Our schools are fantastic, and they strive to continue to make everybody feel special and reach those students where they are. Within town, where you have growth, you have the potential for traffic, and yet we have the Greenway.
Yes.
Which is 2,100 acres of beautiful and preserved land just to get out and enjoy nature.
It is.
How important is that to the vision of Fort Mill?
You have, again, a lot of the key components that are not around in every market in or around Charlotte except for here. It goes back again to what you said in the history. You got to go back and look at the Springs Foundation, the Springs family, what they've done, the fact that they preserved the Greenway for so many years, the fact that it was private. I mean, that's amazing to have that many acres as a private
backyard.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's a preserve almost,
It is
really what it is. And so that's incredible, and the fact that really can't be touched is amazing. That has really helped them a lot. But then the schools, of course. The schools are at almost the forefront in many situations, especially for families. And with all that coming together, everything else takes place after that, but then you have the infrastructure, which has happened, which has been the case for years. And that's where Fort Mill is also, and York County also, has done a great job in promoting itself ahead of Mecklenburg County or North Carolina. And this happened 10, 15 years ago. So that was also a big, big push to the growth for down here, more so than everywhere else.
Well, we have the plan, you have to have a framework, and I just think Fort Mill is so beautiful because you can see as those projects begin to develop and we see what was on a piece of paper actually come to pass and be built, the beauty. I think that you're really doing a great job of maintaining the beauty and the infrastructure, not just from tax bases, but also from the quality of life, being able to walk, a lot of sidewalks, a lot of cycling, you know, looking at the lifestyle, the quality of life that you get by living in Fort Mill.
That's a big part of all of it. And that's, again, why people love being down here. That's also the reason why, again, we want to strive to really protect Fort Mill, the town of Fort Mill. And what you're seeing also a lot of now is they're calling these micro or mini cities. And Fort Mill is one, Belmont is another, Huntersville, Davidson, these kinds of places that they really try to protect their downtown element. That it's a lot of pedestrian friendly avenues, biking trails, events, things like that, farmers markets. And that has become that way over the past couple of years. It always was there, but people are now realizing that that is actually a great quality of life.
It is, and at a time where it's so easy to get caught up in the computer, in work, to have those opportunities on a weekend just to get out and get to know your neighbors beyond just hi, but really get to know them as friends. Main Street, Fort Mill.
Yes.
I mean, wow, we've got great restaurants. We've got, I mean, the amenities of living downtown have just seemed like they've jumped into overdrive. The museum, moving downtown. I love this.
It's been great, and again, this is why we developed the greens. We had an idea that, you know what, we're going to make the downtown the amenity. We're not going to do a pool or tennis courts. We want to push downtown. Go, get home, go take a walk, go down Main Street, go to a park. Do that. It's right down the street. You're not having to walk a mile or 2 or 3 miles away. That was a big part of it, and with that, we hoped what happened was people would start to catch on and go, wow, downtown is a good fit. It is good real estate. Let's figure it out. Maybe there's a way to do more things. And that's what we're seeing now is Katie Baby's opened up now. She's been great. Main and Gray, of course, has been down here. They did a great job. Hobo's, of course, has done a phenomenal job down there. They've got some of my best beers on tap. So that's great. I love it. I love it. And of course, you got to think of
Local
Dish. Those guys are almost old school now. They've been around for a couple of years. But those guys are great too. And so all that is happening, it's taking shape. And it's at least stopping the decaying of those buildings that were happening, or in some cases burning down, which is that's a total catastrophe.
Vacant building, it's just a matter of time. With that growth, of course, comes that question, which you had mentioned, York County being visionary, getting ahead of the growth curve. Fort Mill Town Council just passed impact fees.
Yes.
Growth paying for growth, although there has been a mixed bag of ideas, opinions on whether that was the right decision right now. What is the collected opinion of the Fort Mill Economic Council?
Good question. Good question. and
Town Council probably.
It is a good question, and it's one that you have to think, because it's not just a one answer question bag. You have to look at all sides. You have to look at the reason why they did it. And initially, when it was brought out there, the Economic Council said, "We understand. We don't quite like the way it's being read. Please take that in consideration." And a lot of other business leaders came forward too and said the same thing. And so Council did what we hoped they would do. They would take everything into consideration. And they've come forward now and said, look, we're going to go ahead and pass this, but we're going to make some changes to where it's not going to be such a heavy hit on the commercial sector, which is relatively small on the whole thing of growth, the whole span of growth. Most of that growth has come from residential. We all see it, we all know it.
Yes.
And so that's what's been the biggest push there. But with them adjusting that new fee, it will not be such an impact on the commercial side for what we see as the near future.
Because they discounted, 100% transportation?
They discounted the transportation part. Yes.
And commercial, actually, in terms of our tax structure, pays 10%. So the idea in terms of balancing a strong economy is to have the right formula between rooftops and businesses.
Correct.
So as long as we're getting this growth,
Yes.
we don't want to slow it down. And yet, with that growth comes infrastructure needs such as fire safety, police safety, all of that, and roads.
All that stuff, and the roads too. And the roads, I mean, the roads are needing, they're needing that too. They're needing that infrastructure improvement around here. And again, the only alternatives they had, and we again understand that because we try to get emotional into this. We try to understand their reason of thinking, and that is the alternative would be to do nothing, which you can't do nothing.
Right.
There's too much. It's the barbarians at the gate. They're here. They're going to stay.
I like that.
Exactly. I mean, they're coming in whether we like it or not. They're coming in, and we want them to be here. Or you raise taxes. And the only issue with that is that businesses already and commercial development already pay for more than enough taxes. They pay more on their taxes than they do, in fact, in Mecklenburg County.
Okay.
And if that happens, if you looked at it, it's a case where if you're going to raise it, I'd rather pay $10,000 more in impact fees, let's say, for one-time hit than $5,000 more a year forever. And so that is where you got to really weigh what is the best option there. And the best and probably only option they had was to go with impact fees.
Right.
So,
Right. And I think businesses, I mean, for example, when they know what it cost to be in Fort Mill,
Yep.
and as you know, it's location, location, location.
It is. It is.
That's a nice way of putting it. You know what it's going to be instead of the fear that it's going to eventually be taxed to a point where maybe you can't afford it.
That's true. And I was doing another interview this morning, and a good question came to me was, well, do you think this is going to stop the development? I think the reason why development is starting to slow down now is because the cost of development is getting so expensive.
Like subcontractors, materials.
Exactly.
Okay.
The demand is so great now that the price is increasing tenfold. So with that being the case, that's what's going to slow growth down, in my opinion. Impact fees may weigh on some people's minds, and it may be an issue. It may tip over the scale, but it shouldn't upload that cart too much. It should be the case where if the development cost is weighing too much, that's what's probably going to tip that over, not the impact fees.
Gotcha. So what is the next step for under, you are the chairman. I'm sure you've got goals that you want to achieve while you are serving this role What are your goals? What do you see Fort Mill?
I've got a lot of goals.
Oh, okay. Well, this isn't a marathon. We're
probably
not Law and Order.
Exactly.
So.
Probably too many goals at this
That's
point.
good though.
But it
visionary.
Is good. It is good, and like a lot of folks, I wanted to come on and I wanted to do my part. A lot of that is internally. I always want to make the Economic Council stronger. It needs to be stronger. We're trying to grab a few key folks that have come into this market, folks with LASH, with LPL, with UC Synergetic, to also be a part of that. Because they're in the city limits, they need to be a part of it so they understand what's going on, so they also have a say as to what's happening. So that's the first and foremost there, to create that. Secondly is to create a better bond with city council, with the town manager, with the mayor. They work with us great now. We want to let them know that we're here to help them too. Not what are you going to give us, but where can we help you? And that means let us reach out and talk to people that you may want to see here. That may be there's parking issues now in downtown Fort Mill, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
So let us help you and talk to some of the business owners around here and find a way to work that to where it's easier for everybody to park, to get around Fort Mill. If there's any old buildings, if there are any things that need to be renovated or things of that nature, we want to be there and say, look, maybe talk to this person or that person and help them gain weeks or months ahead of what they're trying to do, because time is money, and especially in development.
Shaw, going back just a little bit, as you had mentioned, a priority on Fort Mill. And the Fort Mill Economic Council has actually really talked about that, discussed how to maintain the beauty, the architecture, but you've gone further. You've actually put it into some specifics for new projects to follow. Can you tell me what that's called and what that means?
I can. The Economic Council actually put in front of the Town Council of Fort Mill what they call the Priority Investment District, or PID.
So when we see PID, it's the Priority Investment District. And that is?
It was expanded on the original downtown node of Fort Mill.
Okay.
And so what that is, that's the core historic downtown, but also that's to include and expand down 160, down White's, up 160 going towards 21 Business, up past to where the, up right to where the the beach stand is, excuse me.
Okay.
And what that was there to do is that was to continue to enhance and what we call is the 4 Ps in the Priority Investment District.
Okay.
It's to plan, it's to promote, it's to preserve, and it's to prosper. Planning it out, of course, was working with the Town Council on what is Fort Mill going to be.
What's the vision?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that started with the Historic District to move out that far. To promote, of course, was to start talking to groups like LASH or like UC Synergetic or like us or anybody else that could contribute to what downtown or what the Fort Mill area is. To preserve, of course, is to preserve the historic nature of downtown and of the area. And that's where we need to make sure that we hold tight with what we've got. We almost have we've lost a lot of buildings down here, and we almost lost a few more. So with that nature of the Priority Investment District and actually the council, that was a good part there to also add to the 4 Ps of the Priority Investment District. The fourth one, of course, is to promote, and promote is the future.
Yes.
And that's where now we're in that section where we are pushing the future out. You're seeing the buildings turn over. People are doing well down here. They're making their own contribution to what's happening. And so the 4 Ps of the Priority Investment District are also part of the Economic Council and what we believe in. The PID, the Priority Investment District, is again really what makes us up and is really helping us drive forward the agenda for the town itself too.
So in terms of priority investment, if there is a company that comes to Fort Mill that is interested in relocating here, that would be the priority of where you would want them to look first in terms of Fort Mill? Or is that how that use of priority?
The Priority Investment District is what we put forward to the council.
Okay.
What we hope they would do or will do is take that and maybe add caveats to it in the future. Nothing happens overnight, but we want them to say, okay, this is the first roadmap. Let's now add to it into adding more things that may help contribute to downtown. There could be more incentives they could do. There could be some development opportunities where they may be adding some infrastructure to places like this. So that's what we're hoping they'll add to the PID. So we've created it. It's out there. We're pushing it, at least in terms of telling people that we want them down here. It's up to the council now to help us move that forward, because it's going to help them out and it's going to help all of us out.
Well, it seems to me that the message is everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
Everybody's looking at the same picture with an idea of this is what we want to preserve about Fort Mill, so that it always has that charm and history. It began as a mill town, and and a lot of people thought it would end once the textile industry went away, and yet it has renewed itself, it is growing, it is prospering, and maintaining and preserving history, which that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not, but it's exciting to see it happening. It really is.
It is. To me, it's kind of like it shows the heart of our citizens, because when there's opportunity to make a lot of money, sometimes that picture just gets torn up and tossed out the door. But, you know, to know that our Fort Mill Economic Council, that you guys are there, you're paying attention, you want it done, but you want it done right.
Correct.
In a way that is fair to the beauty and history of Fort Mill.
You nailed it.
Shaw Kuester, thank you so
so
very
much. I
much
appreciate it,
for your
Patti.
time and serving as president on the Fort Mill Economic Council. And thank you for being with us today for this segment of Fort Mill Business Today. Join us again next time for more up-to-date information about our town, its growth, and the important people that are out there helping make a difference, preserving the history, and bridging into the future. Until next time, this is Patti Mercer. Bye-bye.